What should dating look like for a Christian? Chad, I've been talking a whole lot out of the gate here, so I'm gonna give you a shot.
What should dating look like for a Christian? Okay, so there's not a lot of examples, meaning really none, in the Bible of dating the way that we look at it today. But there are principles in the Bible that we can look at. And so just off the top of my head, just a few things. If you are a follower of Jesus, you want to date people that are followers of Jesus. You want the priority of your life to match the priority of their life. That's a really big deal. One of the things that I'll tell you to think about is when you're dating somebody, you want to meet their family. And you want to get some idea about their family of origin, because nothing shapes us more than our family of origin. And if you're seeing a whole lot of dysfunction there, just know that's part of what you're going to deal with if you decide to marry this person that you're dating, because our families kind of pass those things on to us. And so you want to pay attention to that. So if you're a believer, make sure they're a believer. Make sure that if you're really serious about being a believer, that they're really serious about being a believer. Look at their family of origin. And you want to honor God in your dating. The Bible tells us to flee from sexual immorality, and so you're not going to be having sex while you're dating. You're going to save that for marriage. That's what the Bible would teach. If you're like, why does the Bible say that? Well, let me just explain it to you. Once you start doing those kinds of things, you're not thinking straight anymore. You're not thinking clearly. And it's more about chemistry than it is about character. And sometimes you can be really physically attracted to somebody. That's not healthy for you at all. And so everything that the Bible commands is actually for your good and for your benefit. And so you just want to trust God with those kinds of things. The last thing that I would say, just off the top of my head, is take your time. You probably want to date for at least a year before you make a big decision. Now, I know there are examples of people that dated for 3 weeks and they've been married for 50 years, but that's not the norm. You want to take your time, you want to get to know the person well, you kind of want to see them at their best, and you kind of want to experience them at their worst, because when you're dating, you're lying to each other, right? Everybody's on their best behavior. You want to let some time pass and get to know the real person, get to know their family, trust God in it, do what he says. So those would just be some quick pastoral things off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That was really good. I would add on to that, just in the dating process, the goal is that you build a friendship with the person that you're dating, and that healthy relationships are healthy friendships at the foundation of it. And think about marriage. The goal is to be married and to stay married. And a lot of times couples, and in our culture, which is a hyper-sexualized culture, they think the physical relationship is the most important thing. And to Chad's point, what happens when you get physical in a relationship, they've done studies of the euphoria of brains of couples who are newly, quote unquote, in love, and they compared those brain scans to people who were addicted to heroin, and they were almost identical. And so these feelings of euphoria and love, when there's a physical relationship, people are like, oh, I'm in love. No, you are high is actually what is going on. And it is the same chemicals that your brain is releasing when you're using drugs. And so you want to build a friendship that's going to last, because here's what's going to happen. Time's going to get a hold of us. And you want a relationship that's not built on physical appearance, that's not built on that physical attraction. You want to build a real friendship. The verse that Chad mentioned is 1 Corinthians 6, verse 18 says, flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside of the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. And then he goes on and says, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. And this question is, what should dating look like for a Christian? You should honor God with your bodies. Our bodies aren't our own. They actually belong. They've been bought with a price. So we want to honor God with our sexuality. And this is very countercultural to today, where the culture of dating is you want to be physical, you want to live together and figure out, do we want to be married? Is there compatibility? That's just not a healthy foundation to build a marriage on. If that is your story, I would say it's never too late to do things God's way, and I would challenge you to go, you know what, let's honor God with our sexuality and let's save that for marriage. And statistically, you actually have much better odds in marriage doing it God's way.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple not too long ago, and I challenged them with this. They're new believers. They didn't realize they weren't supposed to be having sex. And so they stopped having sex, and then they realized they didn't enjoy the other person as much as they thought they did. That's a really big deal because, as Robert said, great marriages are built on great friendships. The other thing I would mention before we go to the next question is make a list of what you want in a future spouse. What are you looking for? And then when you start to date somebody, go back to the list that you wrote down when you were thinking clearly before you got high on the just chemistry of everything. And just see if it matches up. And then when you make that list, I would also ask myself this question. Am I the person that I'm looking for would be looking for? And you become the right kind of person so that you can meet the right kind of person, and together you can have the right kind of marriage.